When you learn to suffer better, you will suffer less. This is a great quote by Thich Nhat Hanh, a peace activist, an author, and a Vietnamese Buddhist monk, dedicated his life to helping people. It's a little bit of an oxymoron. It's a little shocking to people to hear someone say, learn to suffer better and you'll suffer less. I've had a few friends tell me, Michelle, tell me how to suffer better. Well, I have learned how to do this. I have learned to suffer better and I suffer much less. With techniques and exercises I've learned to do, I have much less anxiety that I used to live with for many, many years, and I didn't know how to handle it. And learning to process my emotions better has made a huge change in my life. A lot of people don't know how to process their emotions well, because in our cultural conditioning, we're told that they're negative or bad. And, fear, anxiety, resentment, maybe sadness, a lot of this is labeled as negative or bad, or even as mental illness right away to be medicated for. And sometimes it's just something you need to feel and get through your body and move through your body so you'll feel relieved, you'll feel good, and you can move on. And then you don't have really heavy anxiety and depression and all the other things that can come with that. There is like a veil of shame around feeling these emotions. Men have it particularly difficult because most cultural norms are to not permit men to express themselves and show vulnerability. So it's really hard for them. But even for women too, if you can, think of an example, just talking to a friend or a family member or someone you knew, and you started telling them something that all of a sudden you got a little overwhelmed with how you were feeling and you would start to cry a little bit, or maybe they would do that to you. And what do we do when one of us does that? Usually we apologize, right? We're like, oh, I'm sorry, I got emotional, I'm sorry. Because we're afraid to overburden this other person, or it's not acceptable to have these feelings out in public. We don't look like we have our act together, we're too weak or whatever. And then we have these feelings in our brains, so when we go home and maybe we need to cry a little bit, we need to yell and get that energy out of our body that has built up with the emotion, we don't. We push it down and we don't permit ourselves to feel these things, sometimes because we think we're wrong for feeling them or we shouldn't feel that way. We should just be grateful for everything in our life and be positive all the time. Now, be grateful for things in your life and being positive as best you can is very important in your life, absolutely. But if you don't permit your feelings to come out and express them and move through your body, then they get stuck in there. It's energy getting stuck in your body. And then it starts to cause a lot of issues. You start to get chronic anxiety, severe depression, maybe real problems with sleeping, maybe addictions. We can have a whole list of addictions to distract ourselves with when we don't want to feel these feelings. Or even possible pain in your body. We all can feel that, neck, back, all that kind of stuff. And maybe illness, physical illness. So you can see the pattern. If you don't get it out and express it, it just grows and gets worse in some way. We all express it differently. And then we all have very common ways of expressing it, things that I've already discussed, addictions, anxiety, stuff like that. Because, we're ashamed of feeling it, so we're not permitting ourselves to do it. Also, these are just human emotions. If you label something bad or negative and it's a part of you, then it's really hard for you to really accept yourself totally and really cultivate self-love, which is the answer to being happy in your life, because you got a part of yourself you're not permitting to be expressed at all. And when it does come up, you're like treating it like a monster. You want to run away from it and stuff it down, okay? So it creates more problems. There are ways that, like I mentioned it earlier, that you can learn to feel the sensations of these emotions without attaching the story and talking about it and getting totally overwhelmed with it, all right? when we attach the story of how sad or how mad we are, or we're, something wasn't fair, and then we get overwhelmed with the emotions and our ego takes over. When we just focus, when I feel the sensation, and just focus on it and observe it, and not only observe it, try to embrace it, try to be loving to it. This is a part of who you are. It's like if somebody you love came up to you, a little kid, and was like, oh, I'm so scared, can you help me? And you were like, no, I don't want to talk to you. No, you would say, what's wrong, it's okay, And if you treat yourself like that, when these emotions come up, they pass through you faster. And then they don't hang on and build up and you feel more, really anxious and stuff. It's when you accept them, they're a part of you. And if they can teach you a lot of lessons, the more you're aware and the more you practice mindfulness. And if, the other cool thing about, if you need to cry, if you need to yell, whatever, find an appropriate place where you can do that. Get that energy out. It's a real balancing way for your body to cry. After you cry a little bit, you feel how much relaxed and peaceful you are. It actually produces oxytocin in your body. That's the calming hormone and the very loving and joyful hormone, okay? So it actually produces that. So crying is good. It's okay, but we've had the other message where it's a bad thing and no one should do it, especially men. So the key is to look at the emotion without judgment and just observe and see how you can learn from it and breathe really deeply. The breath is the most amazing tool you have in your toolbox. You have it with you all the time. And when you feel fearful or you're suffering somehow, emotional, sad, whatever, anxious, if you notice, if you can, try to be aware and look at how am I breathing? And then you'll feel right away that you're breathing shallow, and all you have to do is concentrate on breathing real deep and real profound for like 3-4 times, especially 4, and you'll see a huge difference, okay? It really takes you into the parasympathetic system immediately and calms your whole body down, all right? But we don't have to be afraid of our fears. We don't have to be afraid of these feelings. This is kind of what we've been taught. We're not supposed to show them. We're afraid to show them. We have shame about it. It's okay. If you're uncomfortable in showing someone else, you can do it with yourself. Get that energy out, and you will feel calmer, more joyful, more grateful in your life if you have time and observe these emotions, breathe through them, and just understand this is a part of life. It's not going away. We can't deny the difficult emotions.